Organized Noise. Organized Noise is the Atlanta production team that helped shape Southern hip-hop in the 90s. The group is made up of Rico Wade, Ray Murray, and Sleepy Brown. They worked out of a basement studio called The Dungeon, where a lot of important artists started out. The space became the core of what's now known as the Dungeon Family, a music collective that includes Outkast, Goody Mob, Killer Mike, and even a young Future. Their sound mixed live instruments with heavy drums and smooth melodies. It felt raw but polished, and it gave Atlanta a sound that didn't copy the East or West Coast. They're best known for producing Outkast's first 4 albums: Southern Playalistic Cadillac Music, ATLians, Aquemini, and Stankonia. Tracks like So Fresh, So Clean, Players Ball, and Jazzy Bell all came from them. They also worked with other major acts like TLC, producing the hit single Waterfalls, which won 2 Grammys and became one of the biggest songs of the 90s. They produced for Ludacris too, including Saturday Ooh Ooh, and helped launch Goody Mob's debut album Soul Food. Even as trends changed, their early work left a mark. They didn't just make beats, they helped build the foundation for Atlanta's rise in hip-hop. Their catalog still holds up, and a lot of today's Southern music traces back to what they started. Ninth Wonder. Ninth Wonder is a North Carolina producer who made a name for himself in the early 2000s with soulful, chopped-up beats that felt raw but thoughtful. He first got attention for remixing Nas's Godson album. He called it God's Stepson. And even though it wasn't official, it caught a lot of ears in the underground scene. He co-founded the group Little Brother and handled production on their first few projects. That's where a lot of people really started paying attention. His beats stood out. Heavy drums, warm samples, and a real ear for melody. That led to Jay-Z's team bringing him in to work on the Black album. He produced Threat, flipping a R. Kelly sample into something dark and sharp. From there, his name spread. He worked with artists like Erykah Badu, Murs, and Talib Kweli, and later ended up producing for Kendrick Lamar. The track Duckworth, from Damn, was one of the standout moments on that album, and it was all Ninth Wonder. He's also known for teaching hip-hop history at Duke University and staying involved in education, but he never really left the music. Over the years, he's added credits with Mac Miller, Nipsey Hussle, Anderson .Paak, and more. His catalog is deep, and he's one of the key names in bringing soulful production into modern hip-hop. The Bomb Squad. The Bomb Squad was one of the loudest, wildest, and most important production crews in hip-hop. Based out of Long Island, the group included Hank Shockley, Keith Shockley, Eric Vietnam Sadler, and Gary G. Wiz. They built beats by stacking tons of samples, horn stabs, sirens, funk loops, vocal cuts, until the whole thing felt like controlled chaos. No one else was doing it like that. Their signature sound powered Public Enemy. Albums like It Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back and Fear of a Black Planet weren't just loud, they were urgent. Chuck D's political bars needed a backdrop that felt intense and unapologetic, and the Bomb Squad gave him that. Songs like Fight the Power, Bring the Noise, and Don't Believe the Hype were all them. But they didn't just stay in one lane. When Ice Cube went solo and flew to New York to work on America's Most Wanted, it was the Bomb Squad that handled the beats. Same with the On Your Love to Hate. Their style gave Cube's West Coast anger a whole new edge. They also touched other classic records, like The Moment I Feared for Slick Rick and Rollin' with the Lynch Mob. What made them stand out wasn't just the noise, it was the precision inside the noise. Every siren, every drum hit had a reason. The Bomb Squad didn't just support hip-hop's golden era, they helped define its sound. Larry Smith. Larry Smith isn't a household name, but he helped shape the sound of early hip-hop. He was a bass player from Queens who started working with Russell Simmons in the early days. Together, they made history with Curtis Blow's The Breaks, the first rap single to go gold. But Larry didn't stop there. He was one of the first producers to really use the Roland TR-808 drum machine in rap. That sound, the deep kicks and crisp snares, became a blueprint. He produced Run DMC's self-titled debut and King of Rock, mixing hard beats with guitar riffs in a way no one had done before. That sound helped rap break into the mainstream. He also produced for Houdini, bringing a smoother, synth-heavy sound to their album, Escape. That record became the first rap album to crack the top 40 on the Billboard 200. It proved that hip-hop could sell without losing its edge. Larry Smith didn't need flashy production tags or viral moments. His work in the 80s helped lay the groundwork for the entire genre. Whether you know his name or not, you've definitely heard his influence. J Dilla. J Dilla didn't chase attention, but somehow became one of the most respected producers in hip-hop. If you ask any rapper or beatmaker who their favorite producer is, Dilla's name always comes up. He was born in Detroit and started with the group Slum Village, but it wasn't long before his sound spread everywhere. His beats didn't sound like anyone else's. He used soul samples, layered drums, and slightly offbeat rhythms that somehow felt more human. You can hear it in tracks like Run It by The Pharcyde, Stakes Is High by De La Soul, and The Light by Common. What makes Dilla different isn't just the sound, it's the feel. He made beats that breathed. That looseness inspired the entire neo-soul movement. He worked closely with artists like Erykah Badu and D'Angelo. And even though he wasn't loud about it, his influence is everywhere, from Kanye to Kendrick to Questlove. He also contributed to A Tribe Called Quest, especially on later projects. One of his most famous production techniques was how he'd intentionally nudge drum hits off the grid, so everything felt more alive, not robotic. J Dilla passed away in 2006, but his beats are still being studied and sampled today. He never went fully mainstream, but his style shaped the underground and even changed how mainstream records sounded. He wasn't just making music, he was shifting how people thought hip-hop could feel. Metro Boomin. Metro Boomin was everywhere in the mid-2010s. His tag, Metro Boomin Wants Some More, was on every hit. Future, Migos, Travis Scott, Big Sean, 21 Savage, everyone wanted his sound, and it worked. He helped push trap music into the mainstream with huge songs like Mask Off, Bad and Bougie, and Jumpman. He started young, sending beats out while still in high school in St. Louis. By college, he was already in Atlanta, working with Gucci Mane and Future. His style was dark, moody, and heavy on 808s, perfect for the kind of music Atlanta was making at the time. But he didn't stay stuck. In the 2020s, Metro started leveling up as a solo artist. His project, Heroes and Villains, got nominated for Rap Album of the Year at the 2024 Grammys, and he also landed a Producer of the Year nod. That kind of recognition showed he wasn't just a beatmaker. He was building a whole sound. Metro's also had Billboard success under his own name, with 4 top 10 hits. And he's still evolving, working with orchestras and scoring superhero-inspired concepts, showing he's aiming beyond just trap hits. He's one of the few modern producers who became a brand by himself, both behind the scenes and front and center. Hit Boy. Hit Boy's been behind some of the biggest songs in hip-hop, starting with N in Paris. That beat alone won him a Grammy and made him a name overnight. But that was just the start. In the 2010s, he racked up more hits, producing for Kendrick, Backseat Freestyle, A$AP Rocky, Goldie, and Travis Scott, Sicko Mode. He's always had a way of making songs that feel huge without losing that raw edge. His biggest streak lately? Teaming up with Nas. Over just 3 years, they dropped 6 full albums together, including King's Disease, which finally got Nas his first Grammy for Best Rap Album. That run showed how good Hit Boy is when he gets to shape a full project, not just dropping a beat. He also worked with Benny the Butcher, Drake, and Nipsey Hussle, earning another Grammy for Racks in the Middle. And he's still pushing, not just as a producer, but helping with direction, A&R, and building full sounds for artists. Hit Boy's had multiple runs. No ID. No ID is one of those producers who's been around forever, but still sounds fresh every time. He got his start with Common in the early 90s, producing most of Resurrection, including I Used to Love Her, which became an instant classic. Since then, he's worked with some of the biggest names: Kanye, Jay-Z, Nas, and even Rihanna. He produced Kanye's Bound 2, Jay's DOA, and The Story of OJ, and was a huge part of 444, Jay-Z's 2017 album that's still one of his most personal and grown-up records. He also helped shape Kanye's sound early on, mentoring him and contributing to albums like 808s and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. His production blends jazzy samples, house music influences, and raw drums. But he's never stuck in one era. No ID has a Grammy for Run This Town, and decades of work that still feels current. Noah 40 Shabib. Noah 40 Shabib isn't just Drake's main producer. He helped shape the entire sound of modern hip-hop and R&B. They've been working together since 2005, and that partnership led to projects like So Far Gone, Take Care, Nothing Was the Same, and if you're reading this, it's too late. 40's production style is smooth, minimal, and full of emotion, often described as that underwater late-night sound, and that's exactly what made Drake's music stand out. Instead of jumping from artist to artist, 40 focused almost entirely on building Drake's sound. Some of his biggest tracks include Take Care, Marvin's Room, Tuscan Leather, Hold On We're Going Home, and Look What You've Done. He also co-produced hits like I'm On One and Fucking Problems. That consistent, moody vibe helped Drake dominate charts for over a decade. 40's work has earned multiple Grammy nominations, including Album of the Year for Take Care and Views. He also co-founded OVO Sound with Drake, turning their sound into a full label and movement. Even though 40's public profile is low-key, his influence runs deep. Most producers chase versatility, but 40 doubled down on one thing and perfected it. That's rare, and that's part of why he's so respected by other artists and producers in the game. Madlib. Madlib's one of those producers who never cared about being famous, but still ended up becoming a legend. He came out of Oxnard, California, digging through crates and flipping samples nobody else would touch. His style is raw, jazzy, and unpredictable, and it shaped some of the most creative rap music ever made. He kicked things off with The Unseen in 2000, rapping under his animated alter ego Quasimodo. But things really picked up when he teamed up with J Dilla in 2003 for Champion Sound, and then MF Doom for Mad Villainy in 2004. That album still gets talked about like it just dropped. Madlib's also the one behind the boards on Pinata and Bandana with Freddie Gibbs. Bandana even got a Grammy nomination, which brought more attention to a guy who usually stays low-key. He's not about making clean, polished music. In fact, he once said he likes it when things sound a little off, because that's what gives it soul. Even if he's not a household name, most producers know exactly who he is, and chances are your favorite rapper has rapped over one of his beats, or wishes they had. Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin's not just a big name in hip-hop. He's one of the most influential producers in music history, period. But if we're talking rap, his impact goes back to the very beginning. While still a college student at NYU in the mid-'80s, he was producing early hip-hop classics like It's Yours and LL Cool J's I Need a Beat from his dorm room. That raw, stripped-down sound became his signature. He co-founded Def Jam with Russell Simmons and helped shape the careers of LL Cool J, Run DMC, and the Beastie Boys. Albums like Raising Hell and License to Ill didn't just sell millions, they pushed hip-hop into the mainstream. Walk This Way with Aerosmith and Run DMC basically kicked off rap rock before it was a thing. Even decades later, Rubin's still involved. He worked with Eminem on Berserk, helped Kanye with Yeezus, and produced tracks for Jay-Z. Artists keep calling him because he knows how to strip things down to what really matters. His rap production catalog is stacked. My Adidas, It's Tricky, No Sleep Till Brooklyn, and tons more. And while he's worked in almost every genre, hip-hop is where his legend started, and it still holds strong. The Hitmen. The Hitmen were the sound behind Bad Boy's golden era. They were Puff Daddy's go-to producers from the start, shaping the label's sound from the mid-'90s through the early 2000s. If you heard a hit on the radio from Biggie, Mace, or Puffy back then, chances are it came from the Hitmen. They worked on Biggie's Ready to Die and Life After Death, Puffy's No Way Out, Mace's Harlem World, and the Lox's Money, Power, and Respect. Songs like Mo Money, Mo Problems, Hypnotize, Can't Nobody Hold Me Down, and Victory were all crafted by the team. The crew included producers like Chucky Thompson, Derek D. Angeletti, Easy Mo B, Mario Winans, Nashia Myrick, and more. Each brought their own style, but together they had one goal: make records that hit in clubs, on the radio, and in the streets. Even beyond Bad Boy, they've worked with Faith Evans, Janelle Monáe, French Montana, and Machine Gun Kelly. But their legacy starts with helping build one of the most dominant rap labels of the 90s. From smooth R&B flips to heavy drums and big hooks, the Hitmen were the backbone of that bad boy sound. DJ Quick is one of the most important producers in West Coast hip-hop. He came up in Compton and brought a smoother, funkier sound that helped shape what we now call G-Funk. While Dr. Dre gets most of the spotlight, Quick was right there laying down classics with his own twist. His debut album, Quick Is the Name, dropped in 1991 and set the tone. Tracks like Tonight and Born and Raised in Compton blended live instruments with hard drums, giving West Coast rap a polished groove. He followed up with Way to Funky and Safe and Sound, proving he wasn't just a one-album wonder. Quick worked with legends like Tupac, Eazy-E, and Sugar Free. He also helped on major records for artists like Corrupt, AMG, and even Jay-Z. His sound was consistent, laid back, musical, and full of bounce. And even when he wasn't in the spotlight, Quick was always working, mixing records and fine-tuning songs behind the scenes. Over the years, he's dropped gems as both a producer and a rapper. And while he's often underrated, People who really know music always bring up DJ Quick's name when it comes to West Coast greatness. Manny Fresh. Manny Fresh doesn't always get the credit he deserves, but if you listen to rap in the late 90s and early 2000s, you've definitely heard his work. He was the main producer for Cash Money Records during their rise, and for a long time, he was their only one. That means nearly every hit from Juvenile, Lil Wayne, BG, or Big Timers had his fingerprints on it. Back That Ass Up, Bling Bling, Ha, Go DJ. Those were all Manny. He created a sound that was loud, bouncy, and full of energy. His beats weren't just catchy, they moved people. He brought the New Orleans bounce into mainstream rap and made it a national thing. On top of producing, Manny was also part of the Big Timers with Birdman. They had hits of their own, and Manny's playful, flashy style was all over them. Even when the music shifted and other sounds took over, Manny's influence stuck around. Today, his records still hit. Whether you're at a party or just revisiting old tracks, that Manny Fresh sound is hard to miss. He's a major reason Cash Money became a powerhouse and why Lil Wayne became a star. Pete Rock. Pete Rock is one of those producers who helped shape the sound of 90s hip-hop. Smooth, soulful, and full of feeling. He got to start working under Marley Marl and soon teamed up with CL Smooth to create classics like Mecca and the Soul Brother and The Main Ingredient. Tracks like They Reminisce Over You, TROY, are still considered some of the best hip-hop songs ever made. Pete had a signature sound, jazzy horns, warm bass lines, clean drum breaks, and just the right scratches. He made beats that felt timeless, laid back but full of emotion. And while his work with CL Smooth was great, Pete also produced for legends like Nas, Common, Ghostface, and Raekwon. One of his biggest solo credits is Nas's The World Is Yours, a standout on Illmatic. He also became known for his remixes, flipping songs from Public Enemy, House of Pain, and Naughty by Nature into something totally new. His influence even reached producers like J Dilla and Kanye West. Pete Rock doesn't always get talked about with the flashiest names, but if you love sample-based hip-hop with heart, his catalog speaks for itself. Just Blaze. Just Blaze helped build the sound of Rockefeller in the early 2000s. If you've heard Jay-Z's The Blueprint, Dipset's Street Anthems, or Fabulous' biggest hits, you've heard that signature Blaze energy. Soul samples, live drums, and beats that sound huge. He wasn't just making tracks, he was making moments. Songs like You Don't Know, Oh Boy, and Breathe had this urgency to them, like the whole room shifted when they dropped. He had a way of making beats that felt both polished and raw, mixing samples with real instrumentation. It sounded expensive but never soft. Even when Kanye started getting more attention, Just kept evolving. He worked with artists like Saigon, Ghostface, and later Jay Electronica, whose Exhibit C became a cult classic and helped launch his career. That one beat alone started a label bidding war. He also produced Touch the Sky for Kanye and Public Service Announcement for Jay, two songs that still hit hard today. With a mix of soul, power, and clarity, Just Blaze earned a spot among the greats, not just because of who he worked with, but because of how unforgettable his music feels. Still watching? If you're into this kind of behind-the-scenes hip-hop talk, hit that like button so we know to keep going. Timberland. Timberland's sound has been a big part of hip-hop since the 90s. He came up with Missy Elliott and quickly became one of the most original producers in the game. His beats had strange rhythms, vocal samples, and a futuristic feel that nobody else was doing at the time. Most people know Timberland through his work with Missy and Jay-Z. He helped shape Missy's early albums, producing tracks like Get Your Freak On and Work It. With Jay-Z, he made songs like Big Pimpin' and Dirt Off Your Shoulder, which became huge hits. These partnerships helped him stay relevant across different eras of rap. Timberland didn't just work with the biggest names. He had range. He produced for Ludacris, Nas, 50 Cent, The Game, and Fabulous, showing he could adjust to different styles while still sounding like himself. Songs like Make Me Better and Put You on the Game prove that. He also crossed over into pop and R&B, but even if you only look at his rap catalog, it's enough to call him one of the best to ever do it. Few producers have stayed consistent for as long while continuing to try new ideas. Swizz Beatz. Swizz Beatz started out making beats for Rough Riders when he was still a teenager. His first big hit was DMX's Rough Riders anthem, and from there, things moved fast. His sound was loud, raw, and energetic, built around hard drums, synths, and very few samples. That made him stand out at a time when hip-hop was starting to move away from sample-heavy production. He became the main producer for the Rough Riders crew, working with DMX, The Lox, and Eve. A lot of that late 90s East Coast energy had his fingerprints on it. Then he expanded beyond the label, teaming up with Jay-Z on Money, Cash, Hoes, and Jigga My N, and later producing hits like Bring 'Em Out for T.I. and On to the Next One for Jay-Z again. Swizz kept his style consistent over the years, simple, aggressive, and built for arenas. He doesn't try to overcomplicate his beats, but he knows how to create momentum. That's probably why his songs still get used for intros, sports, and big moments. And even decades into his career, he's still getting placements with the biggest name. Marley Marl. Before hip-hop production was what it is today, Marley Marl laid the groundwork. He was one of the first to chop individual drum sounds and build new beats from scratch, a discovery he made by accident while remixing a track in 1985. That changed everything. His sample-heavy style, especially from James Brown records, helped shape the gritty sound of early New York rap. As the producer behind the Juice Crew, Marley worked with the who's who of 80s legends: MC Shan, Biz Markie, Big Daddy Kane, Kool G Rap, and Roxanne Shante. He also produced LL Cool J's Mama Said Knock You Out, Eric B. and Rakim's Eric B. is President, and Tragedy Gaddafi's early work when he was still known as Intelligent Hoodlum. His influence ran through the golden era. He was the in-house producer at Cold Chillin' Records and helped push Queensbridge hip-hop to the front. He wasn't just behind the boards either. He dropped his own tracks like Marley Marl Scratch. Vibe magazine once said Marley forever changed the sound of hip-hop, and they weren't wrong. Almost every producer after him took notes from what he started. QTip. QTip was the main producer behind A Tribe Called Quest. He handled most of the beats on their first 3 albums, People's Instinctive Travels, The Low End Theory, and Midnight Marauders. His production was known for smooth drums, deep bass, and jazz samples. That sound became a big part of what made Tribe stand out. Outside of Tribe, Tip helped shape other classic projects too. He produced One Love on Illmatic for Nas. He also worked on The Infamous by Mobb Deep, producing tracks like Give Up the Goods and Temperatures Rising. His production gave those songs a different feel, still gritty, but with more warmth and space. Over the years, Tip's influence showed up everywhere. Producers like J Dilla, Kanye West, and Pharrell have all mentioned him as a big influence. Later on, he also worked with Kanye and Jay-Z on Watch the Throne. Tip's style never relied on heavy effects or big drums. He knew how to make beats that felt clean and musical without being boring, and that's why a lot of his work still sounds good today. He didn't chase trends. He focused on sound and feel. The Neptunes. The Neptunes are Pharrell Williams and Chad Hugo, and they changed the sound of hip-hop in the 2000s. Their beats were simple but catchy. No heavy sampling, just weird synths, stripped-down drums, and a lot of bounce. Somehow, that minimal style ended up dominating radio and clubs for years. They started making noise in the late 90s with big tracks like Nori's Super Thug and Mystical Shake Your Ass, but once Grinding by Clips dropped, everyone took notice. That beat was nothing like anything else, just bare drums and tension. And it worked. From there, they were everywhere. Jay-Z's I Just Wanna Love You, Nelly's Hot in Here, and Snoop Dogg's Beautiful were all produced by them. Even when the songs were totally different, you could still tell it was a Neptunes beat. They also helped launch Clips, a duo from Virginia who dropped 2 cult classic albums, Lord Willin' and Hell Hath No Fury. Most of the production on those was handled by the Neptunes, and it still holds up today. Between party records, street anthems, and crossover hits, they covered every lane, and they made it look easy. RZA. RZA produced nearly all of Wu-Tang Clan's early music. From 1993 to 1997, he handled full albums for the group and its members, like Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers, Tikal, Only Built for Cuban Links, Liquid Swords, and Iron Man. His beats were made from rough drum loops, chopped soul samples, and audio from old kung fu movies. It gave Wu-Tang their raw and gritty sound. Also, into the custom albs in X Minutes. He also worked with artists outside of Wu-Tang, including Biggie, Big Pun, and Kanye West. His style wasn't clean or polished. Most of the time, it sounded like something made in a basement on cheap equipment, and that became part of the appeal. RZA's run in the 90s is one of the most consistent in hip-hop. Album after album, he kept the quality high while still changing things up. Every project had its own feel, but they all sounded like Wu-Tang. Later on, he moved into scoring films and TV, but his early work with Wu-Tang remains his most respected, and it helped put Staten Island on the map in hip-hop. Kanye West. Before the headlines and chaos, Kanye West was known for one thing: making great music. He started off producing for Rockefeller in the early 2000s and helped shape Jay-Z's The Blueprint with soulful, chopped-up samples that brought a new sound to hip-hop. His beats on songs like Takeover and Izzo, HOVA, helped push the genre away from synth-heavy production and back into rich, sample-based music. When he launched his solo career, Kanye didn't stick to one sound. He kept evolving. College Dropout was full of soul. Late Registration added strings and live instruments. Graduation brought in synths and arena vibes. 808s and Heartbreak introduced auto-tune and a colder, emotional sound that later influenced artists like Drake and Cudi. Even when people counted him out, he came back strong. In 2018, he produced 5 albums in 1 month, each with its own sound and vision. And whether it's for himself or others, his catalog runs deep. Jesus Walks, Flashing Lights, Otis, Get By, The Games We Play. Whatever you think about him now, his production work speaks for itself. Kanye West changed how rap sounded multiple times, and most of your favorite artists were influenced by something he made. Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre's been one of the most important figures in hip-hop for over 30 years. He started out in the mid-'80s with world-class Wrecking Crew, but everything changed when he helped form NWA. As their lead producer, Dre shaped the group's sound. Heavy drums, hard bass lines, and samples that matched the energy of their message. Songs like Straight Outta Compton and Express Yourself helped shift the entire genre. In 1992, Dre released The Chronic, his solo debut. That album introduced the G-Funk sound and put Snoop Dogg on the map. Then came Doggy Style, Murder Was the Case, and Above the Rim. Dre was everywhere. He co-founded Death Row Records, then moved on to launch Aftermath Entertainment, where he signed Eminem in the late 90s. Together, Dre and Eminem gave us the Slim Shady LP and the Marshall Mathers LP. Then Dre released his second solo album, 2001, which had hits like Still DRE, Forgot About Dre, and The Next Episode. His sound became more polished, real instruments, layered arrangements, and tight mixing. In the 2000s, he worked with 50 Cent on Get Rich or Die Trying, helped The Game break out with the documentary, and eventually mentored Kendrick Lamar, helping shape Good Kid, Mad City. Dre has also produced for Tupac, Mary J. Blige, Eve, Busta Rhymes, Jay-Z, and Gwen Stefani. He's won 7 Grammys and is known for overseeing every detail in the studio. Even when he's not pressing the buttons himself, he's guiding the entire process. More than just a beat maker, Dre is a full producer. His sound changed with every era, but his quality never dropped. DJ Mustard. Between 2012 and 2014, DJ Mustard had hip-hop on lock. His tag, Mustard on the Beat, ho, was everywhere. His sound was simple, but instantly recognizable. Fast-paced claps, heavy bass, and catchy synths. It was a West Coast update of Hyphy and Snap, and it worked. Mustard helped launch YG's career with tracks like My N and Who Do You Love. He also laced Tyga with his biggest hit, Rack City, and gave Big Sean one of his most viral songs, I Don't F With You. Even 2 Chainz, Jeezy, and Kid Ink benefited from his sound during that run. Some critics said the beats were too similar, but that didn't stop the records from climbing charts. His production made clubs move and kept radio stations spinning his songs non-stop. Mustard also worked with singers like Tinashe and Rihanna, showing he could go beyond just rap. He later evolved his sound with tracks like Ballin' by Mustard and Roddy Ricch, mixing melody with the bounce he's known for. He might not be as experimental as some producers, but when it comes to making hits that stick, DJ Mustard found his lane and owned it for years. Bangladesh. Bangladesh has one of the most unique sounds in hip-hop. You can hear one of his beats and instantly know it's him. The drums hit hard, the melodies are unpredictable, and nothing ever sounds generic. He's best known for producing Lil Wayne's A Milli and 6 Foot 7 Foot, 2 tracks that shook up rap with just a raw beat and non-stop bars. No big hook, no fancy chorus, just pure energy. That formula was simple, but it felt fresh. Even Busta Rhymes once told him, "You brought hip-hop back." He also made Lemonade for Gucci Mane, one of the most iconic beats in trap music. That piano loop became a blueprint. Before that, Bangladesh had already worked with Ludacris on What's Your Fantasy, helping kick off his career. People sometimes overlook Bangladesh because he doesn't have a huge brand or flashy image, but his beats are everywhere. From Beyoncé's Diva to Nicki Minaj's Did It on him. His style is rough, off-kilter, and full of personality. He's the type of producer who can make something wild and still keep it catchy. And in an industry full of copy-paste beats, that's what makes Bangladesh stand out. Young Chop. Young Chop helped shape an entire movement. In 2012, his beats were the soundtrack of Chicago drill, raw, dark, and heavy. He wasn't just making tracks, he was building a whole sound. Working with Chief Keef, Chop made some of the most iconic songs in drill history. Love Sosa and I Don't Like weren't just hits. They changed the way people looked at Chicago rap. His beats were full of eerie strings, rattling hi-hats, and booming bass that made every track sound urgent and dangerous. That year alone, he was everywhere, producing for Lil Reese, Fredo Santana, and Lil Durk. Songs like Us, Traffic, and 300 felt like they came from the same world. Chop gave these young rappers a sound that matched the intensity of their lyrics. Even outside of Chicago, artists started copying the formula. Suddenly, everyone wanted that dark, menacing drill vibe. Chop didn't have a huge team or fancy studio setup, just raw talent and a clear vision. He took over the scene with a laptop, some speakers, and a signature sound that still echoes today. If you're talking about producers who made a real impact, Young Chop belongs in the conversation. Phew, that was quite a lot. I guess we'll see you in part 2. Subscribe and like this video for the next part. Stay tuned.